Okay. It's arrived. This is the SIRUI 50mm f1.8 anamorphic lens. We just did an unboxing. I do have to say I'm thoroughly impressed with this lens. It comes in this cool little pouch, drawstrings and all that kind of stuff. This is the lens itself. It's a hefty guy. It's probably weighs about a pound if I had to say. Definitely doesn't feel cheap in the slightest. The element is square on the front. Take a look at that. You don't see that every day. You can still put filters on it. There's some threads on the inside there. I think it's a 67mm. We are excited to test it out and see what it's like. We haven't actually shot anything with it, but I do know that anamorphic lenses tend to excel at nighttime, especially with those lens flares and Ovular Bokeh. So we're going out later tonight and meeting up with our friend Aiden, who you've actually probably seen in a couple of our other videos. He has a Jaguar, so we're gonna shoot that car, get some really cinematic footage with it, and kind of see what this lens has to offer. Now, obviously, it is not nighttime right now. There is daylight coming through this window, so we're gonna kill a bit of time, and then we'll see you guys out there. Okay, so it's finally nighttime. Night has fallen upon us. It is dark outside. It is also currently Christmas Day at the moment. There's not a soul on the road or anywhere to be seen. We're the only ones out here. Steven is currently setting up the Blackmagic on the Ronin as we speak. No, it's not that bad. It's an absolute monster of a setup though. This thing is like, there's so much weight to like swing around.
You're making me nervous.
I know. Every single time you like move somewhere, you can see the Blackmagic kind of going, whoa, and just kind of like shaking. We have like 2 screens on here, which is kind of like an assault on the eyeballs. Whoosh. Whoosh. Sound effects included. I feel like Peter McKinnon.
Yeah, you gotta drive our own sound effects pack.
I can't do, no. I can't do that. Okay, anyways, this is in focus.
What am I doing, just walking?
You're just gonna walk, and it's a good over-the-shoulder shot.
Let's go.
That's really ruining my shot here. It's ruining vibe here. I was first day on the new feet there, bud.
Yeah, that was a little funny.
All right, so we're just gonna get a shot of Mitchell running with his jacket unzipped. So you get the nice like jacket blowing in the wind, but it is freezing, so Mitchell might suffer a mild case of hypothermia.
God.
How did it turn out?
I definitely don't have my running shoes on right now. Mitchell's way back there, and we're gonna be getting a shot where I have his jacket on now. We've done a bit of a jacket switch, and I'm gonna be flapping it around in the air, just sprinting down the road, and Mitchell's gonna, again, just gonna be following right behind me. And it should look pretty cool.
The hustle is real, guys.
Listen to my noises. That's a little awkward.
Oh boy.
It is 1:57 in the morning. There is a fresh coat of snow on the ground, and we thought this would be a perfect time to meet up with our friend Aiden Feds and film a bit of B-roll with our anamorphic lens and his Jaguar. Okay, this might be out of focus, but we are currently in the back of Mitchell's car with the Blackmagic, doing a little bit of a tracking shot with the car. Oh my God, this is insane.
With the Jag, look at the smoke.
Do you want me to come closer?
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay, so we are at the next stop of the night. We have found this lovely Christmas tree here. We got some really cool shots of the car coming around the corner, just sideways. I'm just kidding, we're not doing any drifting. This vlog is probably gonna be a little scattered just because we are busy trying to film this thing. But as you guys see, we're getting some amazing content. So that is a wrap. Everything looks amazing. The footage looks awesome. The lens performed amazingly well for what we put it through. The flares look insane, just straight across the scene. But it is now 4:07 in the morning, and I just cannot wait to go home and just pass right out. Huge thanks to Aiden Feds and Connor Gust for helping us with this video. They're the ones manning this beast. They're also amazing Instagram photographers, so go down below. Their Instagrams are gonna be linked, and we'll see you guys in the office. Okay, so it is the next day now. We were out quite late last night, till about 4 o'clock in the morning, but we just looked over the footage and it looks insane. Like the anamorphic lens flares and everything, just they go right across the screen and they look so cinematic. Also, another thing is you may have noticed that this side of the screen is way longer than that side of the screen, and that's not normal for most of our other videos. And that's because we are filming this entire video in a widescreen format, or 2.35:1, or 21:9, however you wanna say it. That's what this lens does. It outputs a format that is anamorphic, so you get that squished look, that nice feature film widescreen look. It's a little more challenging though because I can't show exactly what's on the counter and there's a little less headroom and things like that. But because this lens is an anamorphic lens, we thought we'd shoot the whole video in anamorphic. What makes this lens different than most of those other kind of adapters and things you've seen out there that make and mimic the anamorphic look is that this is a true anamorphic lens. So it's not like those things that, like, I know Moment makes an adapter for your phone and also Drone that gives you those nice like lens flares and stuff. This is different. This is like those lenses that you have on the movie set that are anamorphic. It's just a dumbed down, cheaper, simplified version. I know we've been throwing the word anamorphic around like to and fro, and we all know that it looks really cinematic, but what is anamorphic? Anamorphic lenses were invented so they could squeeze a wider aspect ratio onto a smaller piece of 35mm film. This allows you to maintain the wider aspect ratio in your film while not needing to chop off the top and bottom of each frame, because that would reduce the resolution. Other than the widescreen format, two of the most distinct characteristics of an anamorphic lens are the ovular bokeh in the background and those stretched out lens flares. That classic ovular bokeh that you see in the background of anamorphic films comes from the actual ovular element inside the lens. Do you see that? So in theory, if you threw a star shape back there, your bokeh would be star shaped. And in most lenses, it's just a circle. As for the lens flares, they're insane. Just the ones coming off the headlights of the Jaguar, whew, look at those. Typically, some of the cheapest anamorphic lenses you can buy are like $30,000 US. Now this is only $550. So if you wanna get your hands on this very lens, there's gonna be a link down below. It's a GoFundMe. They've raised an insane amount of money. They've beat their goal, I think, by over 1,000%. So just looking at it now, they didn't beat their goal by 1,000%. They beat their goal by 13,500%. Like that's crazy. Everyone wants this lens, and SIRUI is doing an incredible job of offering some cinema characteristic lenses to the average consumer. This lens specifically is a 50mm f1.8, which makes it nice and easy to get those shallow depth of field shots, as well as do some low light shooting like with the car. Typically, anamorphic lenses are just huge and a little unwieldy, but as you can see, this lens is like the size of any other camera lens in your bag. When we got this lens, we decided to do something that we haven't really seen many other people do, and that is to take this lens, this budget anamorphic lens, and throw it on a budget cinema camera. This is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. So those shots that you saw at the very beginning with the car and downtown and everything, those were all shot on this guy at a 12-bit 4K RAW, which is pretty insane. We took this setup, threw it on the Ronin, and we went downtown, which is pretty tame, but next thing we knew, Steven was hanging outside of my car trying to get those low angle shots as I'm speeding down the road and there's wind blowing by and water is just drenching the camera and there's rocks everywhere. And this thing, it held up. This thing is a tank. So that leads flawlessly into the build quality of this lens. And this thing is, they did not take any shortcuts. It is a full metal body. It has the aperture ring and the focus ring. The aperture ring is a stepless ring, so you don't have that clicking when you turn it. See, nice and smooth, buttery smooth. The focus ring is also the same. It is buttery smooth, there's no play. This thing weighs about a pound, and honestly, we are very impressed. After using this lens for a little while, I do have some pros and cons. So I'm gonna start off with the pros. This thing is small, it is cheap, and it has that anamorphic look that everyone is looking for. It also fits on an APS-C sensor, which can be a con if you shoot full frame sensor because they only offer a cropped sensor version. Now in our case with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, it is a 1.25 times crop factor, not a 2 times crop factor because it's a micro four thirds sensor. So the crop is not as bad as if this was a full frame lens. Now with all the pros that it has, there are a few cons. The first con is that this is a completely manual lens, which means that there is no autofocus. So no matter what camera you attach this to, you cannot just tap the screen and have it focus. It won't do that. If you look closely, there's no electrical contacts, so the lens doesn't communicate with the camera body. Now with that, the aperture is an actual ring on the lens, so you can't change it in camera either. This lens is a completely analog lens. Another con is the minimum focal distance on this lens. It is about 2.5 feet to 3 feet, which makes it very tricky, especially when we were shooting the interior of the car. Steven said he had to kind of back up from the dashboard and get the shot from back there, which isn't ideal. The last con for this lens, which is probably going to be the biggest and affect the most of you out there, is that this thing doesn't come with a Canon mount. So if you try to put it on a Canon camera, it just will not work. It only comes with a Fuji mount, a Sony mount, and a micro four thirds mount. However, they are planning to release a Canon mount shortly. It's just the first version doesn't have that. The last thing I have to say about this lens, which it could be a pro or a con, it just depends on who you are and how you look at it, is that this lens tends to be kind of soft. So that means that this lens isn't the sharpest in the world. It's not bad. It's just depending on how you shoot, it gives you more of a film kind of dreamy look rather than that hard digital look. But that's about it for this lens. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to get it for yourself, there's going to be a link down below to the GoFundMe. It's perfect if you want to get a more creative lens, especially if it's anamorphic. Huge thanks to SIRUI for actually sending this one to us to review and kind of share with you guys. And if you're new here, make sure you go down and subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. It really helps us out. Go follow us on Instagram at TMSProductions_, and we'll see you guys next Monday. Single shots of the Jaguar, and there is wind blowing by and water spraying and lights falling.